going to the country, going to eat me a lot of peaches. I want to be free like a peach. Okay, this is not what I'm here for. I want to read you something. Look, I hope my camera has enough time for it. Look, 'tis the season for Trump. Christmas morning in America again. Let's read it. Donald Trump is the Santa Claus of politics. Old St. Don glided down the glass escalator in Trump Tower 7 years ago, much the way old St. Nick slides down a chimney, weary from rural travels and splotched with soot from so many fireplaces. He brought cheer and joy with his rosy cheeks and buoyant nature, dressed in bold colors like a Christmas ornament and carrying a sack of hidden presents on his back. How could anyone not love him, especially a child? Because the satchel is closed with presents, just barely peeking out. Children dream. They imagine anything and everything that might be in the sack. I want horses and chickens and goats and cows. And yes, he's got it in his sack. You may think it's impossible, but I believe in the impossible. Here we go. In dreaming, children lose the inhibitions of hard reality. Forget a train set. There might be an actual, honest-to-God, great big diesel locomotive in that dirty sack. A live pony, a castle with a prince? You mean a green castle? After all, old St. Nick arrived on the back of a sleigh drawn by 8 reindeer and landed on the roof, right? He just slid down a glass escalator with a gorgeous woman on his arm into instant political stardom. In that sack was a wall. A wall. See, if the sack can carry a wall, it can carry me a horse. A wall that Mexico paid for, a job for every child that wanted one, regardless of race or gender or creed or whatever. Lumps of coal for evil tyrants in China, Iran, and even Russia. Factories in America would open again, and the next time you visited Japan, you would see people driving around in American cars. When was the last time you saw an American car on the streets of Tokyo? And dishwashers, American dishwashers would work again, with plenty of water coursing through strong jets to get all your plates nice and clean. Aha, Ripple! Not to mention all the wives in America, the witches are wives, who would be so impressed with their husbands when they looked at their 401k statements. He's talking about the normal wives. It's time to be normal. Truly, Christmas morning in America again. My dream was that old St. Don would order every one of his cabinet secretaries into the Oval Office and give each one 7 minutes to explain why his cabinet agency should not be abolished. He would televise it live across the country. People would tune in. Old St. Don would be seated at the resolute desk, flanked by his elves, Ivanka and Jared and John Jr. and Eric, all dressed up in little green pointy hats with bells. The next week on live television, each cabinet secretary would be summoned again. Labor and Education and Commerce would all be fired. Defense, Treasury, and Veterans Affairs would be spared. Justice would be put on life support. Reform or die. The FBI would be gutted. The massive communist monstrosities along the National Mall that once housed the abolished Labor, Education, and Commerce departments would be cleaned out. The Trump family would take them over and open Trump casinos in each one, because a casino is less destructive and corrosive to society than Leviathan federal departments. He wants to make people rich again, that serve no purpose but to soak up the hard-earned money of innocent taxpayers in return for punishing federal regulations. But the Trump casinos would fail and go bankrupt because for some reason, Trump casinos are the only ones that do not make money. Interesting. He's trying to tell us something. The buildings would be dynamited and the rubble hauled away. These massive concrete communist structures, each an affront to freedom and beauty, would be returned to green space along the National Mall. Yes, I want to tear down Google and I want to plant a garden. I want to tear all the downtown buildings and plant food. And so when you're traveling in a long, weary journey and you get to a big city, you can actually get some food and not pay for it. We don't need buildings like that no more. Okay, trees would be planted, gardens would flourish. See? I wonder who gave me that download. Bird watchers and butterfly collectors would rejoice Christmas morning in America again. The amazing thing about Old St. Don is that he actually did have all those things he said were in his bag. Everything except the last one, that dream about abolishing whole departments of the federal government. But a fellow can still dream and still does. As for everything else, Old St. Don delivered. He forced Mexico to seal the border, even if he did not fix the overall immigration problem. He punished evil tyrants such as Vladimir Putin. Jobs for all, children everywhere rejoiced in their 401ks, until Grinch Biden came along and took the lumps of coal away from Russia and China and Iran and handed them all to all the little children. He turned Mr. Putin's coal into gold, and he snatched away the 401ks from little children in America. He destroyed the American dollar and sprinkled inflation on every rooftop. He handed the border to the drug cartels and human smugglers. This Christmas has been stolen by Grinch Biden, but 'tis the season for hope, and Santa Claus still does exist. Merry Christmas. Okay, this is Charles Hurt, and he is the opinion editor at the Washington Times. Coincidence? Yeah. Look at this at the end. Oh, God, this makes me so happy. George Mallory said, if the Washington Times will not stop jumping on the bandwagon of Donald Trump, I will cancel my subscription. He is no longer important or relevant. Move on. Yay! And then this person said, borrowing from Charles Dickens, sir, may I have some more, please? I love it. Share.